What's good, everybody? It's your boy Hans.
It's Tristan.
Welcome to the Hans and Tristan podcast. Thank you for joining us once again. We are glad to be back amidst of all this turmoil and strife and everything that's kind of going on in the U.S., but we're still here. We're still giving you your thoughts, and we're just going to jump right into it. So last week we had a panel of guests, really mostly my boys. I'm just kidding. So we want to thank them again. We appreciate them coming out. And if you missed the last episode, man, it's never too late. That's why it's a podcast. You can always go back, re-listen, and re-watch our last episode where we had a panel of guests from LA, from DC, from New Jersey, New York, just kind of tell us their experience with the protests and rioting and everything they've seen and their take on it. So always please remember to check out our past episodes because you might have missed something that could have been useful to you in what you're going through. So with that being said, Tristan, I kind of want to move on to the next level because protests have not stopped. They've been going on for about a week and some change now, right? So I think this will make it a week and 2 days or so. Since they've been going on, and they've been going on straight every day. All 50 states have now had some sort of protest, which is great. We're coming together, and I've even been seeing a lot more countries participating. I've seen France, I've seen the UK, I've seen Switzerland, I've seen what other countries have I seen? I've seen so many other places just come together and really just put out their support because we're everywhere. Black people are everywhere. And it's really showing that, to me, I'm going to be honest, in my lifetime, I have not seen a demonstration that's gone this global.
Right. I agree. I had to think for my life. But yeah, no, I definitely agree. I feel like this is history in the making.
Mm.
But as we talked about last week on the panel, like, okay, so what next? What are we doing next?
Mm-hmm.
What's our next move? And then also, like, one thing we did touch on last week was who were the main facilitators?
Right.
How is this information being trickled down? Because again, like, I don't get memos about the march or the text message. I don't know how the word is spreading, but clearly it's missing me. So if you want to participate or if you want to do this, how do you get into the loop of this demographic of individuals? And I'm not talking about just Black people because it clearly is other races out there rioting and marching and protesting as well. But how is everyone getting the memo?
Well, from one thing I did learn, just from doing a little bit of research myself, is that the hashtag actually Black Lives Matter is a primary source of disseminating information. So much so to where Tuesday, when we had Blackout Tuesday, people were saying when you post your Blackout Tuesday, please don't use the hashtag Black Lives Matter, because that would then be flooding that hashtag with a bunch of blank squares and information would just be, lost. So I know that's one primary source of information of, the hashtag is one primary source that is being disseminated. And then of course you have your primary leaders of the community that are out there disseminating information as well. So I know Sean King, he's big. He disseminates information about, peaceful protests that are happening, that are upcoming. In New York and Atlanta and different areas. So he's good about posting it. So you kind of have to do your research from the hashtag, which will take you to people who consistently post information, and you start following them and then they give the information. So I'm glad you brought that up because I guess some of our listeners have been wondering about that. And I think that's one place to start is the hashtag. Follow the hashtag, and then you'll start to see people who post consistently about information, especially in your area, and you can know how to participate and know how to, do your part in this movement. But I do agree with you, though.
The thread, we're 6 degrees of separation.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting it all together, and that's, I think, is going to make it a more uniform situation where it is, people have the ability to feel like they're actually a part of something, and not just by a part just going down into the march, but a part also like having a contribution.
Right.
And having a say in what's next. Because I think that's important because this 1% of, leaders don't really have the ability to speak for everyone if they're not touching the masses.
That's true. That's true, and definitely agree. And I will say this though, I'm 50-50. I guess I'm cynical, but I am happy to see certain leaders are moving, right? They're making moves, they're holding people accountable. I'm thinking of Keisha, right? Lance Bottoms, mayor of Atlanta, right? She's holding certain cops accountable. Remember the cops that pulled those college students
Yeah,
from Spelman, and the other one was he Morehouse? Was he Morehouse?
I believe so. I knew the two officers were black.
Right, right. There was six in total. The two main ones, all of them were black, actually. Um, so yeah, so they were charged.
Imagine yelling Black Lives Matter at a black police officer as he put your black ass out your car.
Exactly, exactly. Which kind of references what we talked about last episode, right? Black cops are not immune to this, right? They're dealing with this as well. They have to oftentimes make a decision of who they're siding with, blue, or they, they have to worry about their work environment and how their coworkers are going to look at them when they're dealing with these situations. So
Yeah,
that's
and
it.
you know what other demographic I think about? Like, and this is so crazy. I was in a I was in a gas station yesterday, and it was this woman who was obviously older than me or whatever, but she was, you could tell developmentally delayed. So she's, I had my little furry little, house slippers on with the little pink fur on them that everybody loves.
Do that.
So what?
I'm just saying do that though. But go ahead.
Don't do that. Anyway, so she was like, she walking up to me, was like, shoes, like, I like your shoes. I'm like, oh, thank you. She's like, what's your name? So I told my name. Then she said she liked my shoes again. So that was a kind of back and forth, like, what's your name? I like your shoes. What's your name? I'm like, okay. So she was with another older white woman who was probably her caretaker, looks like her grandma, mom, somebody or whatever. And she was just looking at me in her exchange, and then of course going back to checkout or whatever. And the girl that was interacting with me, and I hate to say girl because she was a woman, again she was older than me, but she was my complexion.
Mm-hmm.
And the white lady comes over to me and she's like, we don't have a lot of brown people that live in our house. She doesn't get to see a lot of brown people. So when she sees someone that's her own complexion, she kind of migrates to that and she loves it. And she's just so excited right now to see you. So I hope you're not offended. I'm like, absolutely not or whatever. But just thinking about that demographic of us, because we come in all different shades and colors, but they're not in the environment that cultivates and pushes their cultural norms or cultural, acceptance, because they're growing up with, maybe their white side of the family and not the black side of the family. So they might be torn in this whole situation too, depending on how they're being raised and their thought process, and do they honestly understand what's going on. So I thought about that yesterday, ironically.
No, that's real. And like I said, this really movement permeates all boundaries. It really does. It permeates all boundaries and walks of life. Like at the end of the day, I don't think you could sit back and really just not get a hint or have what's going on affect you. Just like the pandemic, was global and permeated people from all walks of life and, classes and everything like that. This movement, I believe, is doing the same. And you just gave a prime example. Another one was definitely that I didn't think about until I saw it on social media, was that basically people who have interracial relationships. So how this time might be affecting their relationships and what's going on with them. And, so it's very interesting to see people basically share their experience with what's going on, how they're dealing with it, and how they're doing their part, whether it's educating their spouse or, you get what I mean? Like it's just very interesting to see how this is impacting everybody. And I'm loving it because honestly, for the first time in a long time, I'm actually seeing some change. Now, my cynical part is doubting the motivation behind that change, whether it's kind of like here, I'll give you this little bit of here just so you can shut up and go away kind of deal, or is it real significant change, So I do have that going on, in the back of my mind, but yet and still I can't deny that this is the most active I've seen our leaders. You get what I mean? In a while.
Even with leaders, I don't want to confuse someone who is famous with a leader, because everyone, like I saw Keke Palmer out there, and I'm just like, I'm listening to her talk, and I'm just like,
All right, you're right. When I say this leaders, I'm talking about state officials, city officials, government
Ah,
officials.
okay.
That's what
Okay.
I mean by leaders. But go
That's all
ahead.
right. Let's clarify because I don't want people to presume that we love the bandwagoners. We love the attention seekers because that's definitely not the case. And everyone who is famous is not with the best intentions of going out there. We talked about that last time with them using their platform. And some people aren't using their platform for the betterment of our people. They're using it to stay relevant while they're not working.
Exactly. Well, times are tough. But hey, don't forget about me, right? I was just talking to Ty about this today. I feel the same way a little bit about these new songs that are coming out right now. So are these songs that deal with this subject matter, is their intention for upliftment or are you just seizing the moment?
Carpe diem.
So that's like, I'm like, so like, was it Trey Songz? He has a song that just came out that's talking about this. I'm like, sir, you haven't even really been in the light like this as a guy that's always been about our movement. Not to say that you're not, but it feels like a lot like you're pandering. Yeah, and that you're just taking advantage. Yeah, you're taking advantage of this moment. It's hard for me, sir. It's hard for me right now. But like I said, I do have a cynical mind. I have to admit that I do kind of question everything. But
It's not even that you're cynical, but at the end of the day, it's just like I know the world I live in.
all right,
I know how many people will try their best to, like you said, utilize this time where people are emotionally invested and emotionally feel obligated to do something. So you're going to take advantage of that to benefit you because sometimes if you put COVID on there, then it gets a different reaction or response.
right. It's just like popular hashtags on Instagram, right? So oftentimes, whatever's trending, people will put it on their post. They may have nothing to do with their post, just so they could get more likes, impressions, what have you. But it's like, okay, so you know nothing about this hashtag. You care nothing about what's going on. You just care about your content, right? So it's like
Absolutely.
we're always having to think about that. On a funny note, did you see the model or influencer or whatever who got fired from her job because she posted a photo op? It's the one Christian mentioned on our last episode. So on our last episode, Christian from LA talked about this young lady who took a picture with a drill in her hand, like she was boarding up a place that had
Yeah.
been looted and everything. So I actually ran across the article myself and I was like, oh, this is what Christian was talking about. But it goes further. She got fired from she had a job at some type of newspaper or print media. And they saw this and they fired her because they're like, this is not what we stand for. There are people dying in the streets and you're, taking advantage of this and we don't, so I was just like, wow. But it goes to show nobody is like, I'm like, really? Like, no, some people are not above that, above doing this and taking care of that. So it's just
But
sad to me.
being from where we're from, are you really surprised?
I'm not, but I'm just like, wow.
You already ain't like, right? Sometimes you be like, you want to have faith in people, but it's like, I don't have faith in people.
Exactly. What do you think about your mayor from your city planning painting and changing the street to the White House to Black Lives Matter? What do you think about that? I meant to ask you
I
about
wasn't feeling her when she was saying that Mimosos and Go-Go was not, staples of the District of Columbia. And I'm just like, huh, sis? What you mean? How you talking? What? So again, I feel like they have ploys, right? They have little gimmicks that they do. And I've always said it like, because people are like, when's DC gonna open back up? DC got no money to stay closed forever, ever. But they did recently open back up, and then painting the black. And then I think where the president took a photo op, she changed the name of the street to Black Lives Matters Place. So again, I feel like it's cute, but what about that unemployment? Because if you got money to pay for that shit, you got money to pay people who are filing unemployment. Because those are both government dollars. So what is we doing? Like, I mean, I just feel like, are we again putting on a show to get the publicity and the attention, or are we genuinely helping people? That money you spend to go get why you ain't building people out that was protesting?
right.
Like, it's so much things you could have done, but what is your actual intentions? And I think that's what it all boils down to. Are your intentions to really back this protest, or are
Hmm.
your intentions to just benefit from this protest?
I agree, and I think was it yesterday that some protesters went and they wrote in yellow paint further down, "Defund the police." So, and I think she took exception to that, but some are saying, well, that comes along with the movement, which brings up your point. So, what were your true intentions? Were you just trying to, increase your PR, and saying that, hey, we're right here close to the Capitol,
And
we're right
it's
here.
the election year, ain't it?
It is. It is. Never
That's what I'm
forget. And I
saying.
think,
Never forget.
and I think that's why we're seeing a lot of action from the leaders.
Exactly. And again, to clarify, when he says leaders, here talking about the political
Yes,
component
yes.
of
Government
that.
officials, government
We're not
peoples
talking
that,
about like real leaders. We're talking about the people we actually elect to be on.
yeah, people that have been elected and
Oh,
voted in. Yes, yes. Don't
right.
forget to vote Tuesday. Um, yeah. So that's what I'm thinking. And also, the mayor of Minneapolis, where this all sprung out. Recently, I think it happened yesterday as well, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe the day before. He was out attending a protest, and they hit him with the hard questions. What are you going to do to defund the police? What's going on? They got all this gear. This money could be going towards, other places. And I think that's the next step, honestly, right? That we talk about. The next step, defunding this entity that has a history, a long history, like hundreds of years of history of oppressing our people. I think that's the next step, if I'm honest, but we'll get there. But
Right.
that was a question that was posed to him because LA, they've done it. They said, no, we're going to defund the LAPD and we're going to use that money towards education. They already have put that in motion. So naturally, hey, what do you think about that? Or are you going to do that? Is that the next step?
Here's the catch 22. You defund the police, right? But then they get paid overtime to work at these riots and stuff.
Hmm.
So it's like,
But what I think they also mean about defund too is this point was really actually brought out to me during Trayvon. Trayvon and Mike Brown. Those were the two deaths that, to me, enlightened me about how most of our police are militarized. Like they have arsenals, like little militaries. Like I didn't know that most police, I'm thinking like big cities, of course, because they're big cities, right? But that's not the case. Like a lot of, you know, little surrounding cities from, Atlanta or whatever, they're militarized. Like they have, access to guns and weapons that are military grade, all because of the funding that is given to them more
absolutely.
so than other, so I wasn't aware of that. So when they talk about defund, that's one of the optics that they're talking about. But to get back to this mayor of Minneapolis, he was booed out of the protest because he refused to answer. And he said he wasn't going to do it. So they literally booed him out. And he just had this walk of shame, head down, and I was just like, wow. Like, I'm not going to lie, as a politician, I feel like others would have crumbled, like right then. Like, you get what I mean? I feel like others would have lied. You feel me? Like I feel like others would have lied and be like, heck yeah. I mean, of course. But
Yeah, we're talking about it, and I'm fully supported, and blah blah blah. Right, but you gotta respect him for not lying.
I'm not mad. Like honestly, I can't be mad at that. I can't be mad at
Right.
that. But
You
I was
definitely
just
want
like,
to have
wow.
respect for that situation because, like I said, he could have easily crumbled under the pressure and be like, yeah, absolutely, blah, 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 blah. But he didn't do that. And it's just like, it just shows you how, like you said, all this is intertwined and intermixed. The politics, the procedures, the people, the protests, like all that is intertwined because it all matters. We already said this situation is not going to be a one tactic thing. It has to
Mm-hmm.
be, targeted from so many different angles simultaneously. And part of that is and I mentioned this last week in off air in regards to acknowledging the Black women in this whole process. acknowledging the Black women who have died and not had the same support as if when a Black male dies. Like, acknowledge that even when we were marching with Martin and everything, it was for the right for Black men to vote. Right. And it had nothing to do with Black women, but we stayed and we supported because we were already told, oh, we got you later. And then even with the women's suffrage march, with white women saying the same thing, oh, well, just support us and we got you later. Because once white women can vote, then, oh, no. So it's like always the Black chick is always like, okay, you know, well, just support us and we got you later. But that later never comes. And we never get that support. And that to me is imperative in regards to, you know, being united and being as one. And everyone keeps saying, well, we're all one, Black Lives Matter. Okay, but what about these Black women who die and get raped by the police? And it's not the same outrage.
No, I agree. And I think it's unfortunate, and I think we should take this opportunity to put it all out there. You get what I mean? So yes, George Floyd and him, you know, his murder, not that murder, his untimely murder is definitely the spark of this. But I think we should definitely use this opportunity, like I said last time, that we have everybody's attention. Because if it wasn't for this pandemic, to have most people in their house, you know, where they can't ignore it, where they can't go to work, where they can't go to outdoors and be distracted, we should put everything on the table. And to me, Breonna Taylor, right? Her name is not being screamed loud enough. Like, there's a movement, actually, there's a protest that happened today in Atlanta, I think 3 p.m., which was called the Say Her Name movement, right? And it was focusing on Black women who have passed away or have suffered injustice by the hand of their oppressors, people who were meant to protect us, right? But we're not saying their name. Their names are being slid under the table. They're not being spoken. So I think that this is a crucial time for us to really put all the suffrage out there. There's no time, we don't have the luxury or the time to just hold back, to put anything in the holster, or to think about things for later. We need to put all our suffrages out there, because just like you said, you're just as Black as I am, right? You're suffering just like I am. So why not put everything out there? Because we need to let people know the full extent. And that's what it is, the full extent of our suffrage. And I think that it's time for people to step up and take that and lead that and bear that cross and lead that. And until that happens, you get what I'm saying? Until that happens, we're not gonna really start to see the change that we need. And I think if we put a name to it, you get what I mean? Like, to me, the Say Her Name was clever. You get what I mean? Like, it sticks in your head because it's all encompassing, because that's what happens. You get what I mean? That's what happens. It's, oh, another Black chick was hurt. You get what I mean? Like, another Black chick. It's like, say her name.
It stays real local, and it doesn't get the same global attention and global outrage. Because, and it's just a clear indication that Black women are at the bottom of the totem pole. Even in death, we aren't praised. And to me, it's just, it's complex. Like I said, if we're all going to try to get on the same page, I need to know that me going out there marching and my Black ass might get arrested or harassed or whatever, that is going to have the same outrage as my Black counterpart who's marching against me. I don't want to sacrifice my life in vain.
I agree.
In vain. Like, and I don't think I should have to.
No, and it takes us being men, right? When we're out there, when we have a seat at the table, to say, and them too. You get what I mean? Like, it takes us to say that. It takes us screaming Breonna Taylor's name. You get what I mean? It takes us putting you guys right there next to us so that spotlight could be shined on the true suffrage of our people. Because at the end of the day, you guys are out here supporting us a lot more than most people ever do. Right? I posted it on my social media. The comedian Godfrey, he was saying, like, Black women always get the short end of the stick, but yet they're the most supportive. They're the ones that's sparking a lot of this, right? The Black Lives Matter movement started with a Black woman. You get what I mean? So it's like, they're the ones who are really behind all of this movements, behind of this progression, but yet they're not reaping the benefits, you know? So I think it takes us, when we're in the position, once again, us, I mean men, right? Not just Black men, but just men in general, to say, hey, them too, like, you're right here next to us going through what we're going through as well. And until we start to do that, right, until we start to take a little light off and share it, right, just like the Say Her Name movement, and bring it right next to us, like, hey, this is going on too, they're getting killed too, and their lives matter, it won't get anywhere. I really think that's what it's gonna take. And we have an opportunity right now, and this is not the time to take advantage. What I will say is, I'm seeing a lot of people from my circle anyway, definitely say her name more and putting it out there as well, because they're like, hold on, we're holding all these different people accountable, but yet we're still not dealing with Breonna Taylor. You know, the officers for Breonna, like, we're not dealing with that. That needs to be dealt with. Why are we ignoring this? You get what I mean? So why are we holding all these other people accountable, but yet they're still free walking around, eating with their family and doing everything? But Breonna Taylor family is still grieving and suffering, you know? So
Exactly. And that's the thing is like, okay, so how do we get beyond those, things again, because those even minor discretions can still cause a major gap in our unit and in our system and in our mechanism. So we have to be able to internally handle our stuff while simultaneously destroying the system that was built to destroy us. And it's right. But it's so much, and that's why you hear black people also like, I'm tired.
All right.
Like you're literally tired. You're emotionally drained because first, let's be real. Let's do the black people 2020 timeline, right? Okay, boom. I think first they canceled the NBA in all sports.
No. Then, you gotta go before that. You gotta go before that. Kobe died first.
Okay. I was doing in reverse order.
January 25th, Kobe passed.
January 25th, Kobe died. So we are starting off the new year at a deficit, right? Sure. Then on top of that, they closed the NBA. The NBA shut down the first time ever in history. NBA is like non-existent at this point.
No sports actually, but yeah.
No sports. Then on top of that, niggas getting laid off. Kids got to go home. They shut the schools down. So people getting laid off. They shut the schools down. And then guess what? You have these multiple, because let's be real. The most recent killing wasn't the only killing that took place.
Come on now.
So you have all these different killings. 3 off the top of my head I could just think about just in the last month.
Like I say, in 1 month, like it's just boom, boom, boom.
So now you got all this. Kobe, no sports. They're going, now you can't go to no cookouts. You can't go outside. You can't, all our outlets are taken away. Our kids are at home. Most of us are losing our job and we're protesting.
All right. And this COVID is affecting us a lot more than it is our counterparts.
Absolutely. And then we're dying at a faster rate. Black men are dying at a faster rate because of, so it's only 6 months into the year. If your ass ain't tired, then you've been hiding under a rock. Because I know damn sure I'm tired.
Listen, man. This year has been rough. All over. But I get it, though. It's like, oh, can we breathe? Can we put pause? Can we hit pause for a second? Like, and just catch our breath? But at the end of the day, though, like I said, I still think this couldn't have happened at a better moment. Like, I've never seen a protest that hit a global scale like this. I was actually reading another article this morning, and it had some photos accompanying, basically looking at a timeline of all the protests that we've gone through in the past. I think it just went back just 100 years. And all I could think about was like, wow, nothing has changed up until, you get what I mean? Like, so much has not changed. And it's just like, this person was killed, this person was killed, and then they weren't convicted. You get what I mean? Like, just thinking about all of this. And it made me think about how oftentimes the world has so many distractions to get us off track, right? And this has been a year of that. Because it's one thing we're dealing with and then another thing happens, right? Because let's be real, we thought, okay, could nothing be worse than this pandemic, right? Nothing be bigger than this. That's what we were thinking. Let's be real. Nothing could be bigger than this.
Right? And then boom.
Right. And then the world was like, here, hold my beer. Like, let me show you what's bigger.
Really?
You get what I mean? And I think it's like we oftentimes lose focus because of what's going on. And I think we have to kind of really, we have to stay on task with this one, because if we don't, we're going to get left behind again. We're going to get left behind.
Right.
And that's why I'm saying
into the smoking mirrors, like painting.
Yes.
And, don't put your energy into that, because it's easy if it's so easily be able to be done within a matter of seconds or minutes, then it really isn't going to make a massive effect. Like, let's be real. So you painting the streets, how does that really, if it's, this is not going to be an easy battle. So if it's coming too easy, then you really ain't doing anything that's helpful.
And that's my thing exactly, right? So I love how you use the term smoke and mirrors because essentially that's what it is, right? Or don't settle for less. So people are forgetting voting matters, right? This is where we hit it. So like your local votes and all that, that's happening. Like I said, voting happens on Tuesday down here. So don't forget, right? We still have to be active. Don't let all this distract you, right? From making a change where it really matters. Don't let the painting on the, on the sidewalks or on the street.
Name in the street.
Exactly. Distract you from the essential changes that we need to happen, the demands that we need to happen. So I do believe, like you said, we have to really stay on task and we have to hold each other accountable. So like, here's some changes that I've seen, right, that have happened quickly and they need to happen, but they don't change anything really, right? So the one thing that has changed is that I think Minnesota now, they banned the chokehold or whatever, right? Okay, boom, great, thank you, right? But that
Thank you.
doesn't get.
It's like banning waterboarding. What the fuck are you doing it anyway?
That doesn't get us anywhere. There's multiple ways to kill Black people.
It's
You get what I'm saying? Like,
you shouldn't have been doing it any fucking way. So,
right.
but thank you for taking that on the table.
We appreciate that.
Die.
Right. The U.S. Marine Corps saying, you know what? We're going to take down these Confederate flags from all our public bases, stands, and facilities because we now understand and feel that it has been associated with so many extremist acts and racism. It's a Confederate flag.
Now just saying that.
The Civil War was about slavery. Like, get
now
it.
Just saying that.
Right. We thank you, but that doesn't change. You get what I'm saying? Like, we thank you, right? Virginia, yeah, we're going to take the statue of Robert E. Lee that has been there since Virginia has been we're going to take that down now because thank you, but no, we need more. You get what I'm saying? Like, thank you. Please, guys, if you're listening, yes, I'll give you credit for doing that, but that's not the change we're looking for and we're preaching for right now. That's not what got Sandra Bland, George, you get what I'm saying? George Floyd, Breonna Taylor. Like, that's not what got them killed. Those statues and those Confederate flags, that's rhetoric. You get what I'm saying? I get that. And I understand that. I appreciate that. But that's not the change that we're fighting for and dying in these streets for. You get what I mean?
And they have to do a better weeding out process in regards to these, recruits. And then on top of the weeding out process, they also got to destroy and rebuild the whole police department. Like, let's be real, because even as a cadet, when you've been on a job long enough, motherfuckers be like, this ain't how you supposed to do it, but this how I do it. And they teaching all types of wrong fucking shit.
Right.
Inside their own cultural, because let's be real, they're their own subculture. So they have their own rules, lingo, and language on how to handle things within their own subculture, which again is counterproductive to what their actual job is to protect and serve. So why are you harassing me? Why are you killing me? Why are you taking fucking 50, 60 minutes to come to the neighborhood when I call 911?
Right.
So no, I feel like, yeah, that's cool. You can paint all the fucking street signs, but then guess what? If you're gonna kill me in the middle of the same fucking street you just painted, you can keep that shit.
Thank you. Go ahead, take down all the statues and Confederate flags you want, but as long as a white man can go down to my house, shoot my family, and not get charged for it, we have a problem. You get what I mean? So, like I said, I get it, the symbolism. I understand the symbolism, but I need true action. That's not the change that we're asking for. That's not what we're asking for. We're asking for you to dismantle this military of a police force that you got going on, right? We're asking you to police less our neighborhoods, right? And equal out these marijuana charges that you have, because we don't smoke marijuana than Tommy, Jim, and Hunter does. We smoke it at the same rate, but yeah, we're going to jail more. That's the change we're looking for. You get what I'm saying?
Even alone, just stop trying to make, like that's a typecasting thing. Oh, only Black people smoke marijuana. Like you said, no, but you put the stigma on our community because that's easier for you to paint us as monsters, because guess what? When you're killing us, in your head, you're killing a monster, not an actual person. So miss me with your subconscious bullshit, because that's how you can go home and sleep at night.
Exactly. That's how you justify your actions. And like we said, remember, it's an election year. So people are trying to beef up their political resumes. So when they're running, they can point to, hey, under my watch, this statue was torn down. Under my watch,
Right.
So understand the game. I hate to say it, but that's what it is. Understand the game. But I want to point out one thing that I did see circulating that I think is helpful, but unfortunately, I don't think it's going to get its due process because it's actually helpful. um, it's called 8 Can't Wait. The number 8 can't wait, and it's basically 8 points in which we can kind of dismantle the police force, and it can decrease the violence towards people in our community. So look up the hashtag, guys. 8 can't, like CANT, wait. And it basically, we'll get more into depth with it on another episode, but it basically lists 8 strategies that every police department in the world, in our country, can put in place, and it will help decrease the violence against minorities, right? It's actually helpful. It's been researched. Like, remember what we were talking about in the last episode? All this stuff that we're asking to do, there's books about it. There's been research. So we're not asking you to reinvent the wheel. We're asking you to implement some of the studies and things that have been out there, right? So all this stuff has already been researched and has been there.
Right. But like I said, they know what to do because they teach it in the academy.
Mm-hmm.
It's when they get into the police force and they have these internal rules and all these made up inside laws and rhetoric, that's what supersedes the actual regulation of how you're supposed to treat people. Because they have their own bullshit that they made up for whatever fucking reason. I don't know, but I don't know. They gotta do better.
Right. Right.
And like you said, the people who are the last officer, I think he said like he had 18 fucking complaints.
Yeah.
Excessive force,
excessive force, yeah.
But you can tell that's what he does, because if you got your fucking knee in the back of my neck as you sit there leisurely with your hands in your pocket, like you motherfucking waiting for them to call your number for bingo or some shit, then god damn it, clearly that's just who you are.
But it's like you said though, right? It points to the subculture within that system, and that's what we have to hit, that subculture, and that's what we have to hold accountable. You get what I mean? So it's like you said, it gets a lot deeper because we have to understand that, okay, we now have to put councils independent of the police force. We can't have them investigating each other. That's counterproductive. Right? We need independent entities that are investigating them when these things happen, because that's how you have 18 excessive force files, and it goes on because you're policing yourself.
Right. That's you just send it to your supervisor and they like, all right, don't do it again. And then again, don't do it again. You know what I'm saying? So I bet if, like you said, in cutting those funds, you get penalized for every fucking complaint that they actually investigate and actually see that you were on some fuck shit. I bet you if they started penalizing and you had to pay those fines, and your ass would tighten the fuck up. Because guess what they do to fucking NFL players and NBA players all the time? Every time they fucking cut up, they got to pay a fine.
Exactly, but look who's running them.
We ain't gonna talk about that. That's a whole different episode.
Facts. So guys, to sum it up, there is a little bit of change, but be wary of the smoke and mirror change, right? Be wary of that. And also, if we want change for our Black women, if we want them to be heard, we have to say their names. And by we, I'm saying us men. We have to put them right next to us and say, hey, they're suffering just as much as we are. They're being killed. Say her name. So it's on us too. So we're not perfect in our movement, in our struggles. We have to be more inclusive. And like I said, we have to take advantage of this time right now and really pull people into the full extent of our suffrage and what we're going through. So as always, guys, we appreciate you joining us. Hit us up on all our social media, Hans and Tristan Podcast, IG, like, subscribe, share, listen to us, iTunes, Spotify, iHeart, wherever podcasts are heard. Please definitely hit us up, subscribe, and listen. And listen, if you missed last week's episode, it was a doozy. It was a great one. We loved it. We had a big cast. Go back, look at it. And last but not least, we're on YouTube. Check us out, subscribe, like, share. Thank you, Tristan. Love the hair. Love the Erykah Baduism.
I was off my swivel today because usually I have my lashes on. I ain't got my lashes on.
You're fine. We
next week I'll be cute. I promise.
Some more natural look. I like it. I like it.
That's because don't get me started.
I know.
He love natural sisters, honey.
Well, listen, what can I say? I like what I like, Tristan. Don't judge me.
You're going to have to accept me and all my fake I told you I'm a whole catfish and I have zero problems about that.
I'm done with you.
So if you want to see me in my all natural state, come watch the podcast on YouTube.
There you go. Check it out. See Tristan in her natural state. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.